Chapter 19, The Battle of Marshmallow Mountain. Clonk! Before he knew what was happening, Queen Victoria's sponge had galloped to the Roquefort and bomped him on the head with her teaspoon. He went flying. Nobody pilfers my pies and gets away with it, cried the Queen triumphantly. She span around, looking to give the Mouse King a good clonking too, but he'd scampered up to the pile of mince pies far out of reach of her walloping spoon. You, he cried, spotting Walter. And you, he continued, as he spotted Fritz and Clara in the kerfuffle advancing towards him. I thought we'd left you trapped under a Christmas tree, he sneered. Well, you didn't, said Clara firmly, while shoving her specs up her nose. Yeah, squeaked Fritz, with equal determination. And we're here to stop you, Papa, shouted Princess Ricotta. The Mouse King's chin fell to his collar with shock. He hadn't expected to see his daughter there, especially amongst the ragtag group trying to foil his plans. He narrowed his eyes. My own little Ricotta wants to foil my shenanigans, hey? He thought to himself. Well, I won't let her. He struck a heroic pose and took a deep breath. Never, he hollered from the top of the pile of sweets and treats. I will stop Christmas, and I will be Father Christmas, Cheesemas, and everyone will wake up to stinky cheese, and everyone will love me. No, they won't, you twerp, said Queen Victoria. The Mouse King twirled around in shock. Whilst he'd been talking, he'd secretly clambered up the pile of treats he was standing on. She now clonked him on the head with her teaspoon, sending him flying. Roquefort, Mashengo, he cried as he fell through the air. Get them boys! Then he landed bum first in a mince pie. And that was when the real chaos started. Shouts and cries echoed around the kingdom of sweets as mice and the adventurers battled. Lumps of smelly green malted cheese twanged from Mashengo's and Roquefort's catapults. They flew through the air, splattering, splat, 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 against shops and houses and even on Humphrey. My beautiful bushy towel, he wailed. As the stinking cheese rained down, Clara and her friends moved quickly. They loaded up Queen Victoria's sponges, spoon, and used it to send piles of nuts and sticky marzipan across the square. My nuts, cried Humphrey as he watched them fly, and my marvellous marzipan. A sugared almond hit Roquefort in the nose, biff, and another walloped Mashengo on the bottom, whack. Papa, Ricotta scolded, you must stop this nonsense. I shan't, he cried defiantly. Nobody spoils my shenanigans. And he scampered down the pile of treats and gave the sweets a big shove. Princess Ricotta leapt to safety, landing nimbly on the ground, but the square was now filled with rolling pies and giant golden chocolate coins. They zigzagged here and there, and everyone had to jump this way and that way to avoid them. And all the while, the palace clock was ticking. We're running out of time, said Clara, her tummy in knots. Beside her, Walter leapt out of the way of a bouncing piece of marzipan, then stood up straight and adjusted his hat. You take Fritz to the sugar plum fairy, he said. Leave this to me. What are you going to do? Asked Clara. I'm going to be brave, said Walter, only slightly nervously. Then he picked up a candy cane and went charging towards the Mouse King. Come on, Fritz, said Clara, grabbing her brother's paw. She poured him over the beaded chain on the floor and towards the palace. Over her shoulder, she saw Walter and the Mouse King fencing with candy canes. Clang, clang, clang. Princess Ricotta went to help Walter, but then Roquefort and Mashengo came to join in. Suddenly, the little mouse princess and the Nutcracker were outnumbered. Clara dithered. The palace doors were just in front of her, but her friends needed to help too. Right at that moment, Mashengo hurled a big lump of cheese at Ricotta. It walloped her hard in the face. Ow, squeaked Ricotta. That really hurt, and her eyes brimmed with tears. Wait 1 minute, said Clara to Fritz. As she wheeled her brain to think of a plan, she spotted Humphrey's head poking out of a great length of strawberry lace ribbons that had fallen onto him from the top lamppost. Clara looked down at the beaded chain in front of her and it gave her an idea. She left Fritz standing looking very moused outside the palace and ran to Humphrey. Quick, she said as Queen Victoria's sponge joined them. Help me make a lasso. The three nimbly turned the length of the strawberry lace into a rope with a loop at one end. When I say pull, she said, pull. When the lasso was ready, Clara span it above her head and charged toward the clanging candy canes. The King Mouse and her sons had cornered Princess Ricotta and Walter. Clara had only one chance. She swirled her lasso faster, aimed, then flicked it forwards. It whistled through the air and it landed, catching up all three mice. Pull, cried Clara. and she, Humphrey, and the Queen Victoria pulled with all their might. The lasso slithered around the mice, knocking them on their feet and tying them up tight. Hurrah! The battle was over. Clara, Walter, Princess Ricotta, Humphrey, and Queen Victoria all gathered around the tied-up mice. Clara wiped her sticky hands down her night-tie and turned ready to be very cross with the Mouse King. He'd behaved really outrageously, stealing things and breaking into the Kingdom of Sweets and plotting to kidnap Father Christmas. But instead of seeing the great Gorgonzola, all pumped and pompous, she was surprised to find him sighing like an emptying balloon. His crown was crooked and his ears suddenly went floppy. He didn't seem sneaky or full of shenanigans anymore, just small and sad. Clara differed for a moment about what to do. Then she decided not to be cross. Instead, she crouched down next to him. Are you okay?" she asked gently. "No, I'm not," exclaimed the Mouse King. His bottom lip started to tremble. "My shenanigans didn't work, and now I just have to go back home to Fort Fromage whilst everyone else has all the fun." He sighed, a big, sad, shuddering sigh. Clara didn't understand. "All the fun?" she asked. "Yes," said the Mouse King. "All the other places in Scrumptious Valley have all the fun, especially at Christmas. All anybody wants is sweet treats and nice nibbles. No one wants stinky cheese." He wiped his eyes with the back of his now grubby uniform sleeve. He looked at Clara and the group gathered around him and appeared smaller than ever. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. I just wanted everyone to like me. Everyone loves Father Christmas, but I wanted them to like me too." "Well, shenanigans and planning on kidnapping Father Christmas isn't the way to do it," said Princess Ricotta. "Nor is stealing things," added Clara. The Mouse King looked even sadder as he nodded. "I know," he said, and he opened his mouth to say sorry again, but was interrupted by a voice. "Clara," it squeaked, "I feel funny." Everyone turned to look. It was Fritz, except he didn't look like Fritz anymore. He looked instead completely and absolutely like a mouse. The time to save him had run out.